to the Ignorance Project. I'm Shireen, and today I have a very special guest, my mom, Dr. Hyacinth Burton. So Mom, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing. Last time I did this with my dad, so just a little bit of a switch up today with you. And
awesome.
Yeah. So thanks for agreeing to be on, first of all.
You're welcome.
But the reason that I really wanted you on is because of some of your credentials. And you've done some research around HBCUs. And of course, with Black History Month, I'm doing some focus on HBCUs this month. So can you give us a little bit of your background information?
Okay, so the research to which Shireen is referring is my dissertation. I did my dissertation in information systems, my PhD in information systems, and I looked at information systems specifically at HBCUs. So in doing that, naturally, I had to do some research in the background of HBCUs. And not to bore anybody or take you back too far, I'm just going to give a couple nuggets about the background of HBCUs. So after the abolition of slavery, there were some groups that wanted specifically to educate, and of course we weren't called African Americans back then, but the literature does refer to
Once upon a time when we were colored,
right, to us as African Americans, even as it referenced then, and wanted African Americans to become a part of the educated landscape of America. Groups like Freedmen's Bureau, religious groups, abolitionists fought for the former slaves to be educated.
Right.
And fast forward to, not too much. Back in 1892, there was an act called the Morrill Act, which was right before the abolition of slavery. I think abolition was 1863. But the Morrill Act called for the government granted land, like about 30,000 acres of land, to states that would start a college or university.
Really?
Right, with an agriculture and mechanics arts mission.
And I'm sorry not to interrupt you, but I remember the last time I had a conversation with Dad, one thing I said is, I just feel like there's just so much that we can discuss around HBCUs and the experience and the history of how HBCUs started in this country. Why you can't just up and start one now.
Well, I will tell you why you can't start one now. It would not be designated an HBCU because I think it's the Higher Education Act of, when was that? 1960, Higher Education Act. I don't remember the particular year, but it does say to have an HBCU designation, a school, a university or college will have had to begin before 1964 with that mission of educating blacks. So there can
I didn't know that either.
Right. So
so we're learning a lot today.
Right. So we can't just start an HBCU now.
Right.
Right. So so I was talking about the Morrill Act, and although the one from 1862 had the mission for colleges to have a mission of agriculture and mechanics, it still did not benefit blacks in the way that it should, especially those in the segregated states, the 17 segregated states at the time. So in 1890, there was a second Morrill Act that said we're looking for color blindness in this mission for the universities to focus on agriculture and mechanics, and so more African Americans or blacks were then able to become a part of these universities.
I didn't know any of that, so very interesting. Thanks for sharing
Morrill
that
Act.
nugget.
Yes.
That's why I have you here, because you know stuff about that.
All right.
So I know for us in our family, we are definitely Oakwood people. You and Dad met at Oakwood. Both my brother and I attended Oakwood University, even under what we thought would be duress. I mean, as kids, I know we said there's no way we're going to this school where our parents work, where we grew up our entire lives. And then by the time I graduated, I didn't even think about going anywhere else. It was just like, oh, let's start here. I'll go to Oakwood. And it's one of the best decisions I made in my life.
And now you bleed blue and gold.
Yeah. Oh, I took my Oakwood hat on an Oakwood shirt. But yeah, I mean, Oakwood is very near and dear to my heart. But one of the things that I hear a lot is, people say, they talk down on HBCUs. They say things like, you're not going to get the same type of education. You're not going to have the same experience. We talked about this last time too. You're not going to have the diversity, which is all just so untrue. Right,
absolutely. So just a little bit more facts about HBCUs. I hate to
that's why I have you here.
So HBCUs are very important to the landscape of higher education in America. So although HBCUs are only 3%, make up only 3% of colleges and universities in the United States, HBCUs graduate 28% of African Americans. 28% of African Americans who go to college get their degrees from HBCUs.
Let me ask you something. When you say African Americans, do you mean like the Black diaspora or African Americans specifically?
That's a great question. I'll have to look into it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be interested to know.
Yeah, that is interesting. But to further discuss the importance of HBCUs, I know a lot of people don't think about this, but 50% of African American professionals, professionals meaning like teachers, I need 50% of teachers, African American teachers, graduated from HBCUs with their undergrad. 70% of African American dentists got their bachelors from HBCUs.
That's fascinating to me. Very interesting.
Absolutely. So HBCUs are a huge part of the landscape of higher education. But there are also problems with HBCUs, not problems in the sense that you might be thinking, but HBCUs are not funded on par with their non-HBCU counterparts. As a matter of fact, when I did my dissertation and did some research, I actually, to even be considered a research problem, I had to do an exploratory study within my study. And I compared 25 HBCUs with 25 non-HBCUs of equal enrollment, equal size, and I compared them on about 10 variables, and on all 10 variables, the non-HBCUs receive more funding than HBCUs with very similar enrollment.
Really?
Absolutely. So you will notice that there are different programs that the government or different philanthropists will do with HBCUs because we are underrepresented in a lot of the funding arenas. So I became part of programs as I worked at an HBCU, like an ITAP program, to bridge like the technology divide between HBCUs and their non-HBCU counterparts. So I traveled a lot to a lot of the HBCUs, and this was like a train-the-trainer program where I got training on technology and took it to my HBCUs. Those of us who were there took it to our various HBCUs and did training at our HBCUs. So that was a program that was funded by the Southern Education Foundation.
Okay. Very interesting. Yeah. So let's talk about Oakwood a little bit more because so just some famous people that we know that have come from Oakwood. Take 6, right?
Right. So although Oakwood is considered one of the smaller HBCUs, not in landmass, huge, beautiful campus. But in enrollment, Oakwood, there are a lot of power that comes out of Oakwood University. You mentioned Take 6, Grammy Award-winning Take 6 group. I know people who a lot of younger people will not know, like Clifton Davis. People my age and beyond will definitely know who I'm talking about. I actually went to school with Clifton Davis, would see him in the library. But Clifton Davis came on a show called That's My Mama way back, I think in the 70s. More people would perhaps know him from Amen, a show he was in with Sherman
By
Hemsley.
more people, she means more people in her generation. I've seen Amen though.
Amen with Sherman Hemsley from the everybody everyone knows Mr. Jefferson, but he came in that show after the Jeffersons with Sherman Hemsley. Philip Michael, I think it's Philip Michael Thomas. I'm not sure,
I think that's it.
He from Miami Vice, another old show. He attended Oakwood University. Of course, we have like a young group committed. They competed on an NBC musical
an
acapella show, and they won. And they are from Oakwood University, and of course, we cannot forget Barry Black.
Oh, Barry Black.
Black, current chaplain for our Senate. He's from Oakwood. He graduated from Oakwood University. Whitley Phipps. Some people know Whitley Phipps. He's we know him as being a good friend or a good spiritual advisor to Oprah Winfrey. He graduated from Oakwood University. And Brian McKnight, many of you may know Brian McKnight, came out of Oakwood University.
Stevie Mackey, J-Lo's vocal coach.
Yes.
Mervyn Warren.
Mervyn Warren also.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing.
The super Aeolians.
The Aeolians. World-winning choir. DeVito.
Okay. I know.
More my generation.
Right.
But yeah, there's a lot of
talent.
There's a lot of talent at Oakwood that people aren't necessarily aware of. And then, I mean, those are the people that we know. But of course, there's also the people that aren't famous, that go on to be professors and physicians and go on to be in business and government. Like, there's just so much talent in that small pool. I mean, and that's at our little Oakwood University. And then just think about all the HBCUs. I mean, our vice president is an HBCU graduate. That's amazing.
Absolutely, yeah. Stacey Abrams, HBCU graduate. I think Warnock is an HBCU graduate as well.
Oprah's an HBCU graduate.
Absolutely. And so, when I was the dean of Oakwood University's business school, and I remember hearing from a lot of people who would come to visit for college days, take their kids down to check out Oakwood. They would come and speak to me, and one of their concerns was, but if my child comes here, will they get the academic preparation as they would elsewhere? And I can guarantee you that I've been there. I taught in an HBCU for over 20 years, and I can tell you the talent that comes out of HBCUs, not just from the arts, but the sciences and business, theology, you name it. You can name any Fortune 500 company. You will see an HBCU graduate there or one of our HBCU graduates there. I can tell you, I always say to students, whatever you do, because, HBCUs, they're fun, lovely to go to, love the tradition and culture there is so rich. But I always tell my students, make sure you stay on top of your academics, because once you do that, you can go anywhere. You can go to an HBCU and go anywhere and be anything that you want to be once you leave that HBCU. Right. And I have seen it myself.
And what people don't realize is, like, companies go to HBCUs to recruit because they want to be more diverse. So if you're good in an HBCU, you're going to be, like, pushed to the top of that line.
Absolutely.
And I know I've talked about this before, but just that aha moment at a young time in my life. I was probably like 12, but read this article in it was Jet or Ebony or Essence, one of the Black magazines, from Tom Joyner, talking about the experience of going to an HBCU and having that opportunity to be a big fish in a small pond. Because you can go to any university, a big university, and go and be like a small fish in a small pond.
In a big pond.
A small fish in a big pond. Thank you. a small fish in a big pond. But if you're going to an HBC, you're going to be a big fish in a small pond. You're going to get that nurturing from your peers. You're going to get that nurturing from your professors. And I know that's something that I definitely witnessed with both of you guys being professors in an HBCU and our house being packed on the weekends with college students from a young age. And those are relationships that you still foster to this day. There are people in my life now that have been there since I was like 6, 7, 8 because they were students of yours or students of Dad's. So talk about that concept of other mothering.
Okay, so in my research, one of the concepts I came across was, as Shireen just said, other mothering. And that says that at HBCUs, they conducted surveys and they found that African Americans who attended HBCUs felt better about the tradition and culture and feeling that they got or gained or experienced at HBCUs than those who didn't. And that concept called other mothering is that we as faculty and staff in HBCUs kind of became like a second mother to our students. So as faculty and dean, students would come to my office and they would talk to me about their problems and I would listen. They would be invited to our homes. We cooked for them. We took food back to the unit when I cooked. Sometimes on weekends, even if they weren't over, I would pack my food and take to the university and they would be able to get good food to eat. Even in the business school, we had a day each semester called Student Appreciation Day when all the faculty cooked for students. And we would just have a big spread that day. And students at HBCUs get that. They get that nurturing and that warmth from faculty and administration and staff at HBCUs that they tend not to get at non-HBCUs. So that was one of the things that came out in the research.
Yeah, and I know you have very genuine relationships with your former students.
Yes.
She used to have a basketball hoop in her office, okay?
I did. I had a basketball hoop in my office, and it was mainly the guys that would come and play me, and we would shoot and see who... I think who got 3 in consecutively or who got the hoop the ball in the hoop first, and then they'd be the champion until the next time they come. And so we had so much fun, and that is unique, to the tradition of HBCUs. And it makes the experience one that you never forget.
Yeah, you really don't. You really just never let that go.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have students now from way back, that I still have relationships with, that still get in touch with me, call me, email me, and it's just, it's something you can't, it's organic.
It is.
Yeah,
it's organic. The most organic thing. That's a good point. All right, Hyacinth. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the Ignorance Project. Other than being a former dean of business and being a PhD with... Hold on. So, of course, you were a former dean of business at an HBCU, which is why I wanted you here. Thank you. But can you tell us a little bit about your dissertation?
Oh, okay. So my dissertation, I actually have my ProQuest book here for my dissertation. If you want to find out more about HBCUs, you can go here. But of course, there's a lot written about HBCUs. Other than this, my dissertation, the title is Factors That Affect Faculty Use of Course Management Systems in Traditional Courses at Private Four-Year Historically Black Colleges and Universities, an Empirical Approach. And in that, I look at... That's why I had to look at the history, actually, of HBCUs. But I look at faculty and how we accept technology acceptance. And I use a specific framework to do that, that looked at perceived usefulness and self-efficacy and things you don't want to hear right now. But we looked at, at things like that and saw... how faculty, we use the survey methodology to see how faculty accept technology and how they use it at HBCUs. So that was that. But besides academics,
where can the people find you?
I do have, I do different nuggets like a leadership element, the leadership element, where I talk about leadership for about a minute and a half. I do this about every 6 weeks, and I talk about different aspects of leadership, like decision making, strategy, SWOT analysis, like doing a personal SWOT of yourself, actually, to a situational analysis to see where you should go in life, and just different leadership nuggets for aspiring leaders or current leaders and would-be leaders, so that's leadership and leadership development is dear to my heart.
And you have a couple certifications in that too, right?
There's certifications where I train leaders, but it's not leadership specifically, like I'm DISC certified, DDI certified. There's workplace Big Five. I'm certified in that too. So yeah, and I do leadership development, facilitate leadership development. But I also do a marriage. There's something I have called the marriage element, where about every 6 weeks I meet with married women, because they're unique issues that married women deal with, and I have professional married women come, and we do a Zoom meeting and have so much fun. But we learn a lot about marriages, and my mission is keeping marriages together. So no, I'm not trying to beat down married men. I'm trying to enhance marriages through married women.
Well, great. Thanks so much for sharing, and
You're
thanks for being
welcome.
on my little show.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Love you too.